All right, rock and roll. Here we are on a Monday, March 10th, 2025. And welcome. I'm your host, John. Welcome to our podcast. If you could, hit the like and subscribe button. Appreciate it. Leave some comments. Somebody was kind enough to tell us that the Democrats were finished yesterday. I kind of went in there and tried to get into a little boxing match with him. Unfortunately, he succumbed. That's a shame. They're all pussies. Can't help that. It's just what they are. All right. Let's talk about idiots. And of course, we know when we're talking about the number one idiot, we're talking about Donald Trump. But it seems recently I might be a close second. So I'm talking to a listener of the show yesterday. And she says, you know, you got the date wrong. And I go, no, I don't. I was getting the date wrong. And then I went old school and got a calendar. And now I got the right date. Sorry, not sorry. I got it all figured out. Seems I didn't. Let's look at the evidence here today, okay? There we go. There is the calendar. There's what I was using to mark my squares. If you notice very subtly in the background, it says 2024. Yeah. I'm just starting to realize the dates don't correspond for 2024 and 2025. Seems like we're a day off. The 10th was a Sunday. This year, as usual, it's one day later. Effing leap year. It's got to screw me somehow. I will say now, and for the last time, I effed up. Well, I'm sure I'm going to be saying that plenty more, but, let's just act like I got it figured out, right? So I'm looking at this and I thought, wow, I had it all figured out. And then I realized I got the wrong calendar. Now, this is all my fault. My mom, God bless her, that died in the war Republican, she donates like $10 to this Indian reservation. She donates $10 to the Wildlife Fund. And there's literally like 30 calendars in her office, right? So when I was having this problem like a couple weeks ago with getting the right date, I thought, I'll just grab a calendar out of there. Well, I guess I should have seen if it was 2024 or 2025, because God forbid my mom throws away the 2024 calendars. Hey, might come back, okay? Hey, it's retro, okay? So now, if you noticed, we're going to do a double here today. This is going to be, well, actually, this is going to be the 10th again. Yesterday's was listed as the 10th. I'm going to just do that as a reminder to myself that I am an idiot, okay? You already know that. Let's move on and assume that John is going to get a stem cell injection to increase his brain capacity, that he can actually read something. Okay. All right. Embarrassing first moments, right? One day, I'm going to tell you about the most embarrassing moment in history I had. And it was when I worked with my mom and dad, and the facts that humiliated me, and it still haunts me to this day, 30 years later. All right? One day I will tell you. If you hit that like and subscribe button. Other than that, no story for you. No story for you. All right. Let's start with our grocery store update. That's what we try and do on Monday. Get the week off to a rip-roaring start. Get you all happy and optimistic as prices continue to escalate. So when Trump came in on the 20th of January, egg prices were at Stater Brothers here in Southern California were $9.99 a dozen. Okay, some pricey eggs, okay? This ain't no Walmart egg, okay? These are cage-free, okay? Couldn't tell you everything else about them. They've been steadily increasing. This week, they are at 15.02. They settled. Last week, they were at 15.02. This week, they're at 15.02. Now, from $10 to $15, I don't have to be a math expert. Hey, I'm a number guy. You can see it when I list the dates on my shows, right? What an idiot I am. That's 50%. 50%. Not even 2 months. God, we got the Ides of March coming too. Jimmy Dean, 2 pounds of bacon. Started out at $5.99. Last week, it was $6.25. This week, $6.40. Oh, looks like the birds aren't the only thing going up, right? Well, and my blood pressure. Ice cream, pistachio cashew. Still, it's flatline, $3.99. You'd think that would probably go up because everybody needs comfort food to deal with this apocalyptic situation we're dealing with in Washington. But, okay. Love you, Stater Brothers. Love you. And then finally, Tillamook cheese, got 2 pounds. And let me tell you, if you haven't had Tillamook, especially if you're out here on the West Coast, I don't even know what to say. Loser. That's some good stuff, man. That is some good stuff. Now, if you're lactose intolerant, I get you, okay? But if you're not, like this podcast, you should be consuming that. That's what you really should be doing. That started out at $7.95 on the inauguration day. Last week it was $8.69. It's still at $8.69, so it's up 10%, give or take. Wow. Looks like these prices are just getting better and better. I thought they were going to go down on day one. Now, all of a sudden, we got to give time. Got to give time. That's what we need to do. That's what we should do for the president. Give him time. Yep. Give him a little more time. We're all going to be speaking Chinese. All right. So we're off and running. If you can, leave some comments. Tell me what stories you like. Tell me what stories you don't like. Live on the wild side. We're taking no prisoners, telling no lies as we launch into our Monday morning podcast. All right. Mark Carney has been elected leader of Canada's Liberal Party. Their current and soon-to-be former leader is Justin Trudeau, which we all know. And they've got kind of an interesting thing there. Trudeau is stepping down. Carney is going to step in, but they give him a couple weeks to get settled. Kind of like we need a couple years to get used to Trump. We need to get settled about what's going on with Trump, right? Now, after he gets settled, then they decide to have an election before October, him against the Conservative Party, right? And I don't know the whole settle-in thing, but, hey, Canada, love ya, love ya, love ya. Love Timmy Hortons. Great coffee. Timmy Hortons is better coffee than Starbucks. I'm telling you right now. Straight out. Best coffee in the world. Best coffee in the world. And that's funny because I don't drink coffee. Carney's first remarks after the vote that put him in the prime minister seat referenced the rising tensions with the United States. Tell me that ain't the biggest thing out there, right? And what he says, we are seeking to be a better trading partner. Okay. Be careful about getting on the knee and kissing the ring, guy. He says, we're creating new trading relationships with reliable trading partners. I guess that takes the U.S. out. And vowed to keep retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. until the Americans show us respect. We've talked about in this show, I am in a conundrum because I don't think Trump plans out anything really thoroughly. I will say that it does look like most of his executive orders came out of the 2025 handbook that the Hoover Institute put out. This is the same 2025 project that Trump acted like he had no idea what it was. And then once he got in, he started, he got carpal tunnel signing all these executive orders, basically mimicking what was in the Project 2025 handbook. All right, Coincidence, I'm sure. You know, in the first term, it was literally like the circus show, right? This guy had no plan. He couldn't even believe he won, right? We couldn't either, right? Russia couldn't believe. Wow, look at how lucky we got. We got the traitor in. And things always went sideways. Remember when he drew the little map of the hurricane in Alabama, even though it wasn't there because, you know, they listened to the NOAA when NOAA actually had people working there, but he wasn't going to give up. He said, no, look, I got a map and I drew a Sharpie on it and there's the hurricane in Alabama. Yeah. Right on, buddy. That's the president of the United States. Well, this time he's had 4 years to him and his little band of cronies to figure out how they're going to hit the ground running. Well, you know, they're gonna screw up. They're already screwing up. The courts are stopping them. We're going to see if Congress grows a pair to stop them on these funding issues where they decide not to send the money that's been appropriated. And then we're going to find out where the real term is, because it's like if you play chess and you have your first 5 or 6 moves all planned out, but then all of a sudden on move 4, the guy does something you totally didn't expect. Like, whoa, where the heck did that come from? Now the whole, like a Gadmatter says, we have an entirely new game. And that's what's going to happen here. We're going to see what happens this week about getting the budget blueprint through. We're going to see, you know, they want to increase the debt limit by $4 trillion. That doesn't sound like they're saving money. If they're saving money, why do you have to increase the debt limit? I don't know. I'm just asking honest questions. That's why we're here at Scorched Earth, right? On Trump, Carney continued to say he's attacking Canadian families, workers, and businesses, and we cannot let him succeed, and we won't. Okay, I get it. I mean, we've talked about this. The Canadian people, there is a segment of them that feels like he's trying to break their economy so that the United States can assimilate them easier. I personally think, and I'm the only person thinking this, that the reason they're after Greenland, the reason they're after Canada is because you need cooler weathers with climate change. I mean, literally, the southern half of the United States is going to burn up in 20 years. It's going to be intolerable. I think we had a situation last summer where we had, off the top of my head, I want to say we had 90 straight days over 110 in Phoenix. I mean, you know, I just like, wow. Yeah. You know when it's not burning? When you don't live in Phoenix. You know, when you're in Seattle or you're in Billings or you're in the UP in Michigan, you know, looking for those doors to get out when the snow hits 5 to 7 feet, right? So Carney will run against Pierre Boulevard. Hey, I thought I already told you. I messed up Kiev. I'm not going to mess this one up. Polivar. It's Polivar. And who has been compared to Trump. He's on the conservative side. He was compared to Trump up until like the last 3 weeks when the tariffs were on, the tariffs were off, the tariffs were on, the tariffs were off. Now he said in a press conference this week, he goes, I'm not MAGA. Yeah. Yeah, you and Boris Johnson both, right? Good luck. Right now, the conservatives are leading in the polls. I'm going to tell you right now, the liberals, just like in 2026, when the congressional and Senate elections are up, they're going to wipe the map with them. It's just not going to even be close. It's going to be like me playing basketball against Michael Jordan. It's like, oh, Mike just scored his 600th point and John hasn't scored one. Yep, that's about it. That's what's coming. It's going to be a blue wash. The blue wave is coming, my friends. The blue wave is coming. And that guy who said the Democrats are done, you got your head in your butt. You got some carbon monoxide poisoning, man. You ain't thinking. I'm telling you right now. And for everybody who's down on the Democrats, I get it. Everybody wants to bed wet. Everybody wants to sit there. We are in such a better place than the Republicans were 4 years ago. 4 years ago, they lost the House. They lost the Senate. They lost the presidency. Trump was exiled to Mar-a-Lago after the January 6th riots. Nobody saw a path back. And look what happened. And I'm not happy about it, but politics ebbs and flows. And I'm going to tell you right now, on Meet the Press yesterday, Fox News with Maria Bartiromo, and I will butcher that name because I can't stand that woman. Why didn't Fox fire her? That he said, I can't predict if there's going to be a recession this year. All right. You know what that is? That's a lame duck talking. That's a guy who doesn't have to run for re-election again. I'm telling you, he is going to burn the whole boat of Republicans. I'm telling you, it's going to be interesting. And another little interesting thing is, his big thing is, well, I'm going to primary you. I'm going to primary you. If you don't come along with me, if you don't go along with everything I say, I'll primary you. Well, in 2 years, he's a lame duck. He's a lame duck now. Okay, primary me. That's fine. Go ahead. Let's see if you still have the power. This guy is under 50% in all the polls. It's going down every day. Let's see what kind of power this guy really has. I think the next 6 months are going to be really, really transformative in terms of what his presidency is. I think we all know how it's going to end up. Unfortunately, you and I are going to have to pay the price. He's going to grift. He's going to do his crypto. He's going to do all this other illegal stuff. He's going to get the Secret Service staying at Trump Hotel at $600 a night because he's golfing there, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he's going to make plenty of money. You and I are going to have to pay the bills. We always have to pay the bills. We get crunched. They don't care about us. They put their foot on our head and they squish it. That's what they've always done. And I'm going to even throw it out there right now. I love the Democrats, but you know what? F you too. F you too. Here's how it is. I get that you care about the poor. I'm down with that. Okay. But I've been hearing enough about we're going to tax the rich. We're going to tax the rich. You know what? 4 years ago, you had the House, Senate, and presidency. And what the F did it get me? What did it get me? It didn't give me a goddamn thing. Did you lower our taxes for the middle class or for the working poor or whatever you want to call it? No. You just talk it. You just talk, oh, we're going to tax the billionaires. Well, you had the chance. Why not? Why didn't you do something? Trump gave a tax cut to the rich when he had, in 2017, when he had all three of those things. How come Biden couldn't lower taxes? Explain that to me. Explain it to me like I'm 5 years old and I mess up the dates on my podcast. Because I do. And I'm a little older than 5, but not maturity-wise. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I'm down with the Democratic Party, but they have to answer to things too. Are they going to lower our taxes? Are they going to ease the burden on us? Why are we paying it? We could start really going down the rat hole. How about the Social Security loophole? We're talking about Social Security and how terrible it is, and it's going to go bankrupt, and we got to do changes. Okay, fine. I'm not going to get into that in this podcast. But there is a loophole that if you make $172,000 or more, you pay the same amount of tax as somebody who makes $80,000 in terms of Social Security. There's a cap. Let's just say the cap is $5,000 a year. I think it's somewhere around there, but that's it. So if I make $100 million, I pay $5,000 a year. If I make $80,000 a year, I pay $5,000. Does that sound fair? If Elon Musk had to pay, let's just say $100 million a year in Social Security tax, tell me the system wouldn't be solvent. $100 million is a lot of $5,000 increments. Right? Nah, we're not doing that. And I don't understand how come the Democrats, they always talk about all these things and they never come into legislative form. You had this opportunity 4 years ago. And look, I'm going to vote for you probably in 2 and 4 and 6 and 8 and 12, all those years. But you know what? It's about time you goddamn do something. I don't want to keep hearing the same old thing. You had this 4 years ago, and I don't want to hear, oh, Biden was so busy with COVID. Oh, he was busy. He was. But you know what? I also think he can do two things simultaneously. Like ease our burden. I'm getting goddamn tired of us getting squished and getting crunched more and more every day, while the rich get richer. And all we hear is when the campaign comes out and they want our vote, oh, we're going to do something about the rich taxes. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And nothing goddamn gets done. It's bullshit. It's just straight effing bullshit. All right. Odd things in the news. Oh, boy, I'm worked up today. Man, getting those dates wrong really got me going. Got the juices flowing. Russian strikes on Ukraine kill at least 23 as the Polish prime minister warns against appeasing the barbarians at the gate. And well, we know he's talking about Russia because Poland is worried after they take Ukraine, and they are, they're going to come straight knocking on the door at Poland. When is some Republican going to grow a pair of balls and say, we are not going to support the budget resolution that Mike Johnson and President Trump want until they start sharing military intelligence again with the Ukrainians? When are we going to see it? You know, half of the people who voted for Ukrainian military and humanitarian aid in the United States legislature were Republicans. It was pretty much bipartisan. Actually, there was a lot of them were even more hawkish. Lindsey Graham, people like that. I don't hear a word now. Now that they've cut off this military intelligence and Russia is really launching an assault on Ukraine because they're trying to grab as much land and as much space as they can to negotiate. Because, you know, when you grab it, it's yours. And we're just going to put up a fence and it's ours. Thanks. So Saturday, Russia hit a first aid warehouse. And then when the first responders went to go help, they hit it again. This is a war crime. Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. You know, after the invasion, the UN declared him a war criminal. So Russia, they're advancing in Kursk, territory of Ukraine, which I'm sure you know. The Russian Defense Ministry on Sunday said its forces captured 4 more settlements in the last few days. It is a power grab. They are making one last push because they know settlement talks are coming. Trump is abandoning democracy. He is abandoning Zelensky. They're not going to have really much of a choice. And it sucks and it's bullshit. But that's where we're at, right? So now they got 12,000 Korean soldiers. Russia's getting Korean soldiers. We can't help. Europe can't help Ukraine. They can't give them any soldiers, but boy, the Koreans are giving Russia soldiers. What world is this, right? And their arrival in Ukraine has really bolstered Russia's offensive artillery. You know, it makes you wonder. We're seeing it in front of us. We're betraying democracy. It's a country just like we were 240 years ago, just trying to figure it out, you know, trying to get there. And they're getting crushed by this awful, awful war criminal and war barbarians. I think the Polish prime minister said it best, you know. All right, here's probably my favorite story of the day. So J.D. Vance, who's about as feckless as a human being can be, has no morals, has no soul. I ran into somebody yesterday and they were telling me, oh, isn't it amazing what he's accomplished in his life? And I said, well, what's he accomplished? Yeah, you know, his grandma had to sell stuff so he could go to school. And, you know, he was a hillbilly. And, well, of course, most of those things were actually debunked when reporters actually investigated the things in his biography. But I said to them, I said, well, that's pretty amazing. He was able to overcome all that. And he said, yeah, you know, grew up in the Appalachians and, you know, he didn't really have anything. And I said, boy, that really speaks to the character of a man, doesn't it? And he goes, oh yeah, it does. And I said, did you know Barack Obama was on welfare? His dad left? Well, you know, that I don't know if that's true. I said, well, the records show that he was on welfare. Now, I know there's the stereotype, you know, there's a black family on welfare, right? You know, I said, did you ever hear the story about the DNC in 2000? And he said, no, what's that? and this comes from David Axelrod, was probably the most trusted advisor of Barack Obama. Barack Obama at the time was just a congressman from Illinois. Just got elected. And he came to Los Angeles because the 2000 DNC was in Los Angeles. And he got off the plane and he went to the rental counter for his car, and his credit card was declined. Okay? He had to call David Axelrod to come over and pick him up at the airport and take him back to the hotel where he was staying with him. And I thought to myself, you know, we've all been there. I mean, I'm not proud of it, but I've had my credit card declined. Sure I have. I've had tough times. And to me, and believe me, if you haven't had it, God bless you. That's a cool thing. But that really speaks to somebody's character, that he didn't become bitter and he didn't try to enrich himself when he did get to that pot of gold. Right? He didn't. And I told the guy that story, and I said, what about that? And then, of course, you know, if they tell you a story about a conservative, it's all true. Might as well just be gospel, right? Even though the Bible is a bunch of fairy tales, but it's all gospel, right? But when you tell them a story about our guy, oh, I don't know about that. That's a lie. I saw a YouTube, I saw a TikTok clip, and I'm like, oh my God. You know, it only goes one way. It only goes one way. Just like I've said, and I will say for the next 4 years, let's see the evidence now about the 2020 election being rigged. Let's see it. You got all the power. Let's see it. You know, you lost over 60 federal lawsuits. 37 of those were adjudicated by Trump-appointed judges. Let's see it. Let's see where we're at, right? So let's get back to JD, though. So he was in Cincinnati yesterday, and he was with this 3-year-old kid, and some Ukrainian protesters came up and started heckling him. And they were. You know, how can you support Russia? How come you can't support democracy? And they got into a little back and forth and, you know, whatever. And then JD goes on his little X, and he says, if you're chasing a 3-year-old as part of your protest, you are a piece of shit person. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, you're in Cincinnati. You're protected. You got Secret Service around you, and you're bitching because your kids got to hear what a piece of crap you are. No, you're the piece of crap. You straight up are. And you know what? I've seen pictures of 2, 3, 4-year-olds in Ukraine with blown off arms and blown off legs. And God forbid, if your little kid, and I'm not putting this on the kid, but if your kid's got to hear what a piece of crap you are and how you don't defend democracy, tough shit. It's just tough shit, man. I don't really care. I don't give an F about you and your little male ego. You know, 20,000 Ukrainian kids have been kidnapped and relocated to camps inside Russia. Okay? What happened, JD, if your kid got kidnapped? Well, you're such an immoral mother effer, you probably wouldn't even notice. Oh, maybe I can have an affair with somebody else. Isn't that the Republican thing? Have another kid? All right. So finally, the Secret Service shot an armed man in a confrontation in Washington, D.C. They had an alert that a man, a suicidal person, that's me in the morning before I have my cup of coffee, even though I don't drink a cup of coffee, probably before 10, I'm still suicidal, that he was going to Washington, D.C. Trump was very diligently working on his golf game in West Palm Beach, Florida, so he didn't have to be bothered by this. The Secret Service received the info, marked the intruder, approached his car in a parking lot in Washington, D.C., shot and killed him. They said he brandished a weapon. Who knows? Who knows what really ended up happening there? I got one more thing to tell you. I did run into somebody else. I ran into a lot of people on Sunday. And there's a little tidbit for you that I hadn't heard anywhere else. You know how the Doge is eliminating all these positions and they say, oh, it's a probationary employee. And in my mind, the probationary employee is someone who just got hired. Okay? Now, it's anybody with less than you're a probationary employee for 3 years. When you get that status, it exists for 3 years throughout the government, right? So I was talking to this person, and he said that he is a probationary employee. He's very worried. And I said, well, you've been working there like 12 years. I said, how are you probationary? And he said, well, no, that's not how it works. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, you could be a new hire. Okay, that's one way. 2, you can get a promotion. I said, a promotion? He goes, yeah. If you go from just being a worker to, say, a supervisor, that's a new position. You are a probationary employee in that position for 3 years. I go, oh, wow. He says, if you get transferred from one agency to another, you're probationary. He goes, if you get transferred inside the same agency, like let's say hypothetically you're in the IRS and you go from auditing to bill collecting, you are a probationary employee. And I was like, are you sure about that? He goes, absolutely. He goes, I'm worried. He goes, I became a supervisor in my job. And he goes, that was only like 2 years ago. I was like, ooh, that ain't good. He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm hoping I can keep my job. He voted for Trump. We'll see how that goes. All right. I think we know how the end of this Star Wars saga ends. All right. If you could, though, hit the like and subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. Leave a comment. Live on the wild side. And then don't be sad because this is coming to an end. Be happy because I finally got a good calendar that was accurate. All right. Peace out. I'll see you tomorrow.